Hello, my name is Eric. Welcome to my frugal homestead. This is my first video I'm making, so I figured I'd cover the utmost basics of homesteading, self-sufficiency, etc., which is mentality. So the number one rule, always common sense. If you think it's going to be dangerous, find another way or have good health insurance. Um, my situation, I'm a full-time nurse. I homestead as a hobby. I have 3 kids that absolutely love it. I have a wife that hates it. So that being said, a lot of people say many hands make light work, which is absolutely true, and there is a time and a place for that. I put my kids to work around here often with various manual labor tasks that are safe but get them exercise, fresh air, a hard work ethic, etc. But in my situation, a lot of the work, the skilled work and the heavy work, the dangerous work, I'm doing myself. So efficiency, work smarter, not harder, because I also already have a full-time job. I have a family to take care of, and then I have the homestead. Obviously, my family comes first. Actually, my faith comes first, then my family, then my job, then my homestead. But the homestead ties into everything. It ties into my beliefs, the way I want to raise my family. So it is an essential part of our life. But that being said, I always try to work smarter, not harder. I try to put tasks together to save time. And then there's things. Everything you do, in a way, relates to saving time. I mean, something as simple as I have a good pair of insulated muck boots that save me from having to clean the house because I tracked mud through it with shoes that need to be washed, and the time and effort that goes into cleaning dirty clothes. I have one pair of dirty clothes I usually wear a week that I do use for work around the farm. And then just like I said, combining tasks. A good example right here. I just got done feeding the animals. I have just a bucket of garbage, and I just had a baby goat born up top that I'm keeping separate from the rest of the herd. So I have some grain for mama, and I have a bucket for some water. And I also have this wheelbarrow back here with a car jack and a bunch of boards and blocks in it, which I'll get to in another video regarding how to get a vehicle unstuck on a wet homestead. But I got my tractor stuck here earlier, and all that stuff just needs to go that way on my property. So instead of making a whole bunch of trips and tying up 30 minutes of my time, I take the buckets, put them on here, pick it up like that, and I can take everything at once. But you do this kind of thing long enough, and you find everything's the more you can combine your tasks and kind of get a flow to your work, the easier things become. And another aspect to cover with the mentality of it is durability, toughness, mental toughness. It is not easy out here. It's stressful, especially on a muddy homestead like mine. Things are always getting stuck. With the kids, things are always getting lost. So the big thing I have is when I start to feel overwhelmed. It happens to everybody. Don't let anyone fool you. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's ultimate homesteader, can do anything and everything stress-free and without worry. It doesn't happen. The big thing is, things are starting to stress you out, take a deep breath. Just like my tractor got stuck earlier. Turned it off. I took a minute, sat down, took a deep breath, figured out a game plan, which was jacking it up, getting some blocks under the front wheel, which got stuck in a rut, to get things moving around. And also with kids, another thing that you can probably see on my hip right now, I have a walkie-talkie. And I have an 8-acre homestead, and I can talk to the kids in the house in the back of my property. So if I'm out doing stuff and they're doing homework, or I get up at the crack of dawn and they're still sleeping, they know when they wake up, if I'm not there, they can key me up on the walkie, and that saves me trips to and from the house to check in on them. And if they need something, I can usually tell them what to do over the walkie-talkie rather than having to come back to the house and do it. So, like I said, it's just all putting things together and getting a flow to your work. And once you get that flow, everything, you kind of have a zen about your work around your homestead. It's always tough work. It's painful, stressful, sometimes be downright miserable, especially in the snow, which luckily just melted, but we still have enough permafrost in the ground that I can move my tractors across without getting too terribly stuck, other than in this one spot. Anyway, but you know, after a while, you really come to love it, and which I have, and I'm seeing the benefit in the way I raise my children. I'm seeing the benefit in my physical health. You know, I do try to make things easier, but at the same time, I do get a lot of exercise. And sometimes, you know, if I'm feeling salty, I'll grab 2 5-gallon buckets of water and hump them all the way to the back of my property just to get the exercise. I'll even do some bicep curls with it, just to stay in shape, get some good cardio. And I mean, I'm 40, and you know, I do martial arts too, and I think, not necessarily because of my skill, but because of my physical health, I'm able to outdo most of the guys in my gym when it comes to sparring, especially grappling. All right, another thing to cover. You can see I have some boots in there. And a lesson, it took me a long time to learn. Get out of there, trash. Was to keep the clutter down, which is really tough to do when you're trying to be self-sufficient and save money and time. You always want to have useful stuff around, which is totally appropriate. I mean, if there's useful things, don't throw them away. But within the realm of reason. Like those old boots I just threw away, they've been sitting on my porch for 2 years. You know, muck boots with a giant tear in them and some hiking boots with the soles wore out. And I was like, well, I might need an extra pair of hiking boots, or I might need an extra pair of muck boots. No. You know, that my father always used to say, cluttered room, cluttered mind. And it's kind of the same way around your homestead. And it's something, I mean, you can tell this is my property over here. I mean, I got a driveway full of junk. It's all useful junk, but every bit of clutter adds to the level of stress. So if you can find a way to stay organized and keep the clutter to a minimum, that will help you greatly with your stress level. And like I've already covered how stressful homesteading can be. But, you know, the cool thing is, you know, down the road, you do it for a while and your kids do it for a while, you find that, you know, the skills that you learn on your homestead, just even, you know, how to deal with stress, proper ergonomics with lifting, like any number of things, it applies to every other area of your life too, which is great. So that's just another plus of this lifestyle. And, you know, another thing to cover, what is homesteading? That's different to everybody. For me, it's I try to live off the land as much as possible. I try to be as frugal as possible. And you'll see, stay tuned to my channel, almost everything I use is secondhand, recycled, reused, you know, upcycled, whatever they call it these days. So, and there's necessities, there's necessary things to spend money on. But there's a lot of things that people throw away that, you know, we can reuse and save a couple bucks and, you know, help reduce our environmental impact a little more by not cluttering the landfills. So, another important aspect of this lifestyle, homesteading, you know, is not to get overwhelmed. Rome was not built in a day. Your homestead won't be built in a day unless you feel like paying people for it. And then at that stage, what's the point? You're missing out on a lot of the fun. But just to show everyone, you know, my situation, everything's a work in progress. Everything's evolution. You know, I bought this property 7 years ago, almost 8, and my goal is just to every year do some sort of improvement, permanent improvement on the property. And just to go back on what I said earlier, you know, I have my own junk pile that I'm dealing with. I have multiple junk piles. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed about the clutter and think, you know, you're failing because you see all these wonderful YouTube videos of people with these immaculate homesteads and all this great stuff, you're not failing. Baby steps, you know, every day, every month, just try to make a little improvement somewhere. And like I said, it's like, you know, a lot of this is useful stuff. This lumber pile was 3 times taller when I, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and I've used it for a ton of projects around here. Animal shelters, I built a run-in for my tractor, a whole bunch of stuff. Even dumb stuff, like I got the excavator stuck and was able to use some of the long boards under the tracks to get it out. So, yeah, stuff comes in handy, and I'm one of my goals this year. I'm going to build a rack for all this stuff and get rid of what is not usable and keep what is, but just have it a little more organized. I have some roofing tin here. This is an old shed the very first year I lived here, hauled here and planned on rebuilding, which LOL, that didn't happen. And just, just firewood. I got these big pipes, some plexiglass. I got, my auger, which I should probably put a cover over at some point. But this, and then this 3-bag garage is full. I have hay, straw, and I have ATVs, old furniture, all kinds of stuff. But one of my goals this year is actually to tackle this mess and make a bunch of trips to the dump, kind of sort through what's important, what's not important, what I will realistically use at some point and what I won't, and either sell or scrap what I won't, and save what I will, but do it in an organized way that is going to reduce my overall stress level around here and my wife's anxiety for seeing the house a mess. So another thing to consider is if you're just starting out, the homesteading thing is a lifestyle that's turned a lot of people on, especially over the past couple of years with COVID and all that came along with it, the lockdowns and the shelves being bare sometimes, the giant toilet paper crisis of 2020. We survived that, by the way. But when it comes down to selecting a place, my situation, I found out I was having a son. I was originally living in Maryland, and he was going to be living with his mom up in Pennsylvania. So I moved up here to be closer to him so I could be a part of his life. And the best I could find, I would have loved to start out with, at the time you could buy 25 acres of wooded land around here for $90,000 or $100,000. And I would have loved to just, fell some trees on the land and build a cabin and live off the grid and all that stuff. But having a child and, everything that goes with it, dealing with, legally speaking, if, she would have a good argument saying he's living in a log cabin in the middle of the woods with no power and no running water. So that wouldn't be good for, increasing my time with him. So what I settled on, a coworker of mine was actually going through a divorce and got rid of her 8-acre homestead. It wasn't even a homestead at the time. It was an old farmhouse with 2 garages and nothing. You see this bush behind me. The entire property was bushes that tall, and it was a jungle. You couldn't walk through it. So over the years, actually the first thing I did, I had a walk behind mower and actually cut the front of the deck off of it so the blades were sticking out the front, and would just mow it back and forth into stuff, just knock the brush down. I did that in winter when it was the lowest, and there was a little bit of deer track running through it, so some of the stuff was pushed down, but it was a bear getting things to the point they are now, where I have 2 large fields and everything else, and kind of have the tick situation under control, which was really bad when I moved in. I will make a whole video on that, because Lyme disease is a very serious thing and should not be taken lightly, especially, and there's other tick-borne illnesses too. Alpha-gal, if you like red meat, might want to look that one up. But yeah, so homesteading in this property is nothing but hills. It gets very wet at the bottom. If I had to do it all over again, I could cherry pick a property. It would not be one with a lot of hills and wet areas. I do like having 2 streams going through the land. That's a huge plus. I use that for watering my gardens, for watering, getting water for the animals. That's great. But at the same time, I've touched on the mud before. It's everything that gets stuck, and it's a pain. So surveying the land for swampy areas, deciding where you do and don't want to do stuff and what's manageable for you is great. If you're going to have a place with a lot of hills and or mud, anything tractors or trucks with 4-wheel drive is a huge plus. Neither of which I have. I started out with it's like a 51 Ford 8N with a peg leg in the rear, so it only gets power to 1 wheel. I put some fluid in the tires. That helped a lot. But there's a lot to be desired. When I borrowed my friend's 4-wheel drive Kubota, that was a night and day difference. But that's once again convincing my wife that it's necessary to buy a $25,000 tractor, which is not necessary, by the way. It's just a very nice convenience to have. Convincing her would have gone over like a fart in church, so that didn't happen. But everybody's got to choose what works for them. Some people they live in a row house with a backyard and they just want to start the garden and some chickens. They're allowed to have 4 to 6 chickens where they live, and there's no wrong answer here. It's whatever works for you. It's whatever works for your family. But I will say, when I bought 8 acres, I'm like, oh my gosh, 8 acres of land. I grew up in the suburbs. This is like, I feel like I owned a state. And now that I've been here for 7 going on 8 years, it feels small. Like I'm ready to move to a 100-acre property because I've made all my mistakes. Or no, I shouldn't say that. I haven't made all my mistakes. Every day I make mistakes and learn from them. But I think a lot of the major lessons I have learned around here on what to do and what not to do. And it's a pretty challenging property where I live, so I've cut my teeth pretty hard on what to do and what not to do around here. Anyway, but yeah, start with whatever means you have. Don't go outside of your means. That's a huge thing. If you get property with existing structures, if you have property with an old barn or a big garage, that's awesome, because the more stuff you accumulate, the more animals you have, just the need to store stuff increases. But yeah, just it's the cool thing about it. It's so diverse. It's you can be. I have friends that have chickens in downtown Baltimore, in the inner city, and grow their own food in their backyard. And then there's people out here that buy a farm and don't do anything with it. So it is what you make of it, and that's the beauty of it. It could be anything you want it to be. It could be good, bad, and otherwise. But either way, it's a great experience, and I think anybody that is interested in this lifestyle, it's a big leap of faith. It's especially if you grew up not doing this kind of stuff, not around agriculture, learning land management, that kind of stuff. It's a huge challenge, a huge learning curve. The beauty of YouTube is, you can Google, you can YouTube, you can find anything online you need resource-wise right now. So I'd say get while the getting's good, because the way this world's going, who knows how long the internet will be around for. But yeah, learn as much as you can. Be that sponge, suck up all information, good, bad, and otherwise. Have a good common sense filter for what's legit and what's not, which is challenging to do these days, but it is doable. So, but best of luck to everybody. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. And I ask anybody that knows me, that's all I do is ask questions, whether whether it's about this stuff or about nursing or about cars, anything. Having a conversation, getting to know people, growing a community, expanding your network of friends, it's always a good thing, because how many times have I been in a jam and I've had friends and neighbors come out here to help me out, or let me borrow a piece of equipment, or even one night was like, hey, my driveway's blocked because there's a giant tree across it. Can my family stay at your house? That kind of stuff. And the more you grow your network of friends, the more you grow your community and just be good to each other, the more this lifestyle takes off, and the better it is for everybody. Ultimate benefit of this lifestyle: sunshine and fresh air. Can't beat it, especially in the era of COVID. Vitamin D and sunshine, good exercise, stay fit. Funny nobody's getting on TV suggesting that. Anyways, on that same token, one of the big things, I challenge everyone to take that leap of faith and start homesteading. Hey guys. They till my garden for me in the winter. But it's also knowing your physical limits. If you're that 60-year-old guy who's buying 100 acres in Montana thinking he's going to be the cowboy from the movies he watched when he was a kid, you're sorely mistaken. Bodies break in really bad ways. You can see how this big scar, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I tore my bicep last year. I ruptured my bicep tendon trying to lift more than I should have. I knew it. I did it anyway because I thought I was Superman, and I paid the price. So treat your body right. Know your limitations. If you're older, if you have a bad back, even if you don't, picking up a loader, something that you can, a force multiplier for lifting stuff, especially one with down pressure too. A lot of those big jobs that are hard on your back could be made easier having a front loader to pick stuff up with. I have a 1973 John Deere 1020 with the loader I got for I think I paid like $3,000 for it a couple years ago. And that, it, as much as it sucks getting traction with that big loader on the front end, even with a weight bucket and ballast in the tires, I'm still slipping and sliding on that thing. I can actually lock the rear differential too to get power to both back wheels. But either way, having that force multiplier though for lifting heavy stuff, saved my back 1,000 times over, and I highly recommend picking one up if it's within your means. If not, proper body mechanics, you can use leverage, you know, levers, fulcrums, all that old Egyptian stuff. But yeah, treat your body right. Pays off in the long run. So I almost forgot to include one of the most important aspects of this lifestyle, which is all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Have fun. Have fun with your kids. Have real experiences with them. Take time to enjoy. Because, you know, like my parents always said, it goes by quick. And, you know, quality time is irreplaceable. And, you know, when kids look back on their childhood, their fondest memories shouldn't be, oh, I remember that time I sat in front of the TV and played Minecraft for 8 hours straight. No, it's real experiences. It's getting outside, it's having fun, being one with nature, and you know, it's always good to have hobbies. So, you know, aside from the homesteading stuff, you know, I play guitar. The kids play instruments. We play together sometimes, but we're always out riding bikes, hiking, you know, just enjoying each other, doing stuff like that. So, you know, old cliche phrase, take time to smell the roses. Definitely do it, because you only get one life. You got to make it a good one. And what better way to end this video than with a baby goat? All right. Cheers, guys.